Feeling depressed lately? Powerless? Not sure what to do next? Is it the news? It's only bad, right? So why are you watching? I'm not saying stop listening to anything that's going on, but maybe do so sparingly. It's easy to see everything going on and just keep watching forever because you're doom scrolling, or because you're doom scrolling but telling yourself you have to stay informed. Do you though? If it's stressing you out, why let it? I get a lot of news from Blue Sky because I get some perspective on things. Sometimes I'll skim the headlines on Google News. I don't want to know any news less than an hour before I go to bed because I'll get angry and have to stay up writing. It's great to know what's going on, but what can you do about it? If you keep watching and doing nothing, you'll feel powerless and spiral downward. A lot of the people in my Blue Sky feed say you need to call your representative and get them to tell Trump to stop it. Many of the same people have been complaining about the same representatives for voting in Trump's cabinet picks and doing nothing to stop any of his policies. I don't think the Democrats are committed to being the opposition you want them to be. Maybe calling or writing to them will work, but it hasn't so far. I don't know what it'll take for people to drop the Democrats, at least the federal party, but I guess if you see them as the only hope to make anything better, you might keep the faith. Unfortunately, there is no hope in the Democratic Party. They've proven that to you. In case you were ever in doubt, they keep proving it. You can choose whether or not to see it for yourself. If you're one of those people who insert themselves into conversations and tell people this is their fault for not voting Democrat and they should still support the Democrats, your idea might get dismissed as unserious. Fortunately, you don't need a political party. You can do something. This video is about my suggestions for what you can do in these dark times rather than wasting your time and effort going through the proper procedures. But first, we need to be on the same page. What's wrong with the proper procedures? Look where they've got us. I know we were all taught they're necessary checks and balances to protect our freedom, but mostly they empower the state and legitimize its rule over us. People keep saying everything Trump and Musk are doing, everything I'm going to talk about today is illegal and unconstitutional. And I wonder if they will ever realize it doesn't matter. Those things do not stop the exercise of power. If police, military, and whatever other enforcers continue to follow orders, which they will, your constitution means nothing. The purpose of the state has never been to serve you, but to create and serve a ruling class. The difference now is everything that was left that could somehow have served or protected you is being dismantled. So perhaps it's too late to work through a system that you're locked out of that might not even really be there anymore. Likewise, I don't recommend trying to change the minds of people whose minds are closed. So for example, there could be lots of value in public demonstration, but in my opinion, there is zero value in accosting politicians and executives and expressing yourself clearly and asking politely. They're not listening. They don't serve you. You'll want to find people who are actually listening. You'll want to have something to suggest they do about it. So let's talk about what the government's doing, again, so we're on the same page, and then we'll talk about what we can do. Some things you just can't stop, but there are always some things you can do. Why have people been calling the past couple of weeks a coup? Well, Elon Musk wasn't elected, and yet he's taking on a major role in this administration. He's transforming how things work, purging the bureaucracy of anyone who might oppose him, locking people out of their offices, and giving access to everyone's data to his aides. Why do these people want exclusive access to your data? What are they going to do with it? They've deleted huge amounts of data from the government's records and are taking down government websites. Why are they doing that? What don't they want us to know? What can you do to stop them? Nothing, I expect. Some people tried to archive the massive information as it was being deleted, but I expect it's too late now. The best we can do now is to keep speaking the truth, talking about what's happening and why it matters, using whatever data seem reliable. But unless you're a data harvesting corporation or one of Elon's buddies, it's going to get harder to know what reliable data means. The government's legal assault on trans people has commenced. They've made it impossible to officially change your gender anymore. That means trans women will be put in men's prisons again. Do you know what men do to trans women in prison? punishment and cruelty are the right wing's ways of forcing an entire society to conform to their narrow understanding of the world. They've done it before. The government has scrubbed any recognition that trans people exist from websites and is demanding government employees remove their pronouns from their email signatures. It might seem petty, but these are preliminary steps in criminalizing all queer and trans people. Discrimination is now legal again. Eliminating DEI and including A means making it legal to discriminate based on race and disability, too. There are whole groups of people these right-wingers want to push out of public life altogether. There have been protests at hospitals that have given in to the government's demands to cease gender-affirming care. I'd like to see hospital staff themselves walk out. But hey, maybe they are and I just don't know about it. You can join. You can support them. You can agitate and foment, stir up anger. Anger doesn't have to be expressed as spontaneous one-time demonstrations or outbursts. You can join or start organizations. They could be legal organizations. They don't have to be. I've said elsewhere, in the age of total surveillance and state control, it might be best to operate in small, informal groups. These affinity groups can't be legally disbanded and sued because they have no legal presence. There isn't even a list of names. As far as the state is concerned, affinity groups are ghosts. All the news about legalizing discrimination and criminalizing transition should be appalling, but probably the most disgusting news for me was this: Trump making it easier to harass, molest, and groom children at school. This government wants to make it even easier than it already is for predators to do what they like most. But then it's a government made up of sexual predators. I guess it's not surprising this was near the top of their agenda. What can we do about discrimination against queer and trans people? How can we protect kids? It's kind of the same question. The people preying on children are the ones who talk loudest about the scourge of homosexuality and gender ideology. They want a country where everyone is subordinate to cis-het men. A lot of this resurgence of predatory masculinity is a reaction to the spread of feminism. Any idea that questions the supremacy of white men is dangerous and must be suppressed. For the children. So learn more radical intersectional feminism. Make it accessible to everyone. Show people the connections among all these policies. Get them to think about the implications. Stand up for people. Speak out against right-wing lies. Listen to trans people. What are they doing? What do they need? How can you help? Listen to kids. What do they need? If you can, I suggest pulling them out of school. This is a big topic, so there's a playlist in the description. To keep it brief, schools have never been the ideal setting for a child to learn, and for many kids it's become a dangerous place to be. But now sexual predators and fascist bullies are getting an official green light. School will become a nightmare. The alternative, which I explain in a couple of videos in the playlist, is no school. Kids learn on their own. You can give them things to learn. You can answer their questions, show them where to go to learn, even learn with them. They can learn alone or in groups. They can learn from you and from others in the neighborhood. They will learn if you don't stifle them. If you're interested, check out the videos and the books in the descriptions and talk to your kids and check your schedule. If you think it might work, give it a try. Of course, the right wing is not just patriarchal, but white supremacist, so ethnic cleansing is also at the top of their agenda. Since entering office, Trump has sent more than 1,500 troops to the US-Mexico border, closed already limited pathways to asylum and citizenship, and blocked refugees from entering the country. Trump has ordered the building of expanded facilities at Guantanamo Bay Prison. Remember, the torture facility where the state puts people if it just doesn't feel like giving them a trial. And of course, ICE raids have ramped up. I bet ICE was just itching to take the gloves off and put their hands on millions of vulnerable people just trying to live their lives. And if you still didn't believe it was ethnic cleansing, they're also targeting Native Americans for deportation. Again, they've done it before. By the way, remember when I said countries are built on forgetting? The new government actually switched the name of Denali, the tallest mountain in the US, back to its colonial name, Mount McKinley. They say they're doing it to honor American greatness. If they wanted to honor American greatness, they should honor the guy who shot McKinley. the Luigi of his day. This way, it's a middle finger to all indigenous people, a sign that the Trump team will do everything they can to further the project of forgetting. So if you want to fight them, you can do it by remembering. Learn about the history of the land. Work with indigenous people. How can you help them get their land back? Millions of people are slated to be deported. In the process, many of them will go missing because they will have been killed or trafficked by ICE agents who will get away with it. You can let people who need to hide stay in your home or your church or other buildings. Students have been staging walkouts in protest of ICE raids. In San Jose, protesters stopped traffic and students walked out of class to join them. In San Diego, protesters have been occupying the streets and getting hit by tear gas. In Chicago, you can attend workshops to learn about your legal rights and join local advocates tracking ISIS movements and getting legal aid to victims. There are various places you can go to hamper their work. You can try to block them from entering doors, or you can go to their offices and say hi. You can even start your own ICE watch. The link is in the description. What does it mean that Trump pardoned 1,500 people who were involved in the January 6th coup attempt? Authoritarian and fascist governments often have paramilitary forces. The Trump administration has several, such as neo-Nazis, Proud Boys, and Patriot Front. They will be used to intimidate anyone the government targets. So what can you do? Find and become your local anti-fascists. Depending where you are, there might be a history of anti-fascist organizing where you live, or at least some kind of loose network. Their organizing saves lives. If you can't be there in person, you can join the growing online network identifying white supremacists so locals can keep an eye on them. What about war? Is President Musk... Trump planning for war? Could be. I'm not worried he's going to invade Canada, but plenty of other places are at risk. Trump has talked openly about retaking the Panama Canal, and since the US has invaded Panama before, the threat is real. He's also designated Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Bush and Obama already set the precedent for unilaterally invading countries because they said there were terrorists there. Likewise, one of his executive orders designates Ansar Allah, the Yemeni Houthi movement, a terrorist organization. So more war for Yemen too, I guess. What does a Trump government mean for Palestinians? Any chance things will get better for them? No. First, these ceasefires are always shaky and they always get violated. Second, after liquefying most of Gaza, the IDF has turned its attention to the West Bank. The US used to put sanctions on settlers in the West Bank because settling territory acquired by conquest is a violation of international law. But again, the law does not hold back people with power. So they've ended sanctions on settlers and companies building settlements and unfrozen their assets. I think if you want to stop a war, you need to cause widespread destruction and imply there's more to come. You can attack the businesses getting rich off the war, you can protest recruiters, you can attack the buildings where these decisions get made, you can even make uninvited visits to the homes of the decision makers. This is serious business. Half measures like threatening to withhold your vote won't stop them. Speaking more generally, this government will plunge the world deeper into techno-feudalism, which will hurt most people, but especially those the system robs and beats up the most already. More people will become homeless, but there will be less support for and more violence against homeless people. There will be more killings of trans people, especially black and brown trans people. All the worst people, from police to arrogant white boys, will feel bolder, will push you farther, and will face weaker punishments, if any. Meanwhile, the punishments for fighting back will get worse. So I guess, don't get caught. Because fighting back now is more important than ever. Fighting back doesn't have to mean taking up arms, although this might be a good time to consider training. A possible guiding value is solidarity. Who needs your support most? Whoever they are, there's already a whole movement around helping them. Maybe there's an organization near you. Maybe there's one online you can support. You can educate yourself and others, protect Yourself and others work together to become independent of oppressive systems. You might want to join local boards of this or that, if for no other reason than to stop the right wing from stacking it. You can also start your own neighborhood assemblies or workplace assemblies to take back some measure of control over your own life. You can organize online too. I'm including a list of dozens of more specific suggestions in the description. Every day you can choose to do something. Don't just stand by.